Welcome to Closer to Christ through General Conference, where two friends who love Jesus share our own approach to studying the most recent General Conference talks. This is Abby.
And Amy. Let's jump into it.
Today we get to discuss the talk, The Family-Centered Gospel of Jesus Christ by President Dallin H. Oaks, president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. It's typical that we bring the prophet's address up to the top, but as we're in the midst of an apostolic interregnum. We're not deleting this out, Garrett. You can leave this mess up. I don't know how to say that word. I've only heard it once in my life, so that's as good as I'm going to say it. But because we don't, we have the keys are residing with the 12, and that's the period of time that we're in right now. So, as the leader of the church at this moment, we've moved it up to the top of the heap as though, the prophet's message were in play. But we do recognize in this moment in time, he is the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. This period is typically short, often lasting maybe a week or two, and concludes after the deceased prophet's funeral, which at the time of this recording was just Tuesday, so like 5 days ago. The next prophet is usually the most senior apostle at the time of death and is sustained and set apart after their funeral. So we anticipate that maybe shortly after the airing of this, we will have a prophet.
And a new apostle, hopefully.
And a new apostle.
When I look at this talk and read it over, it feels like it's kind of broken up into a few categories. The first one, President Oaks tells us about the doctrine from the proclamation of the family. Then we talk about parental responsibilities and teaching the gospel principles, also practical knowledge and family knowledge. And then I love this part. We're going to get to it. He fills in the gaps with the family circle, is what he calls it. I do want each of us to invite the Holy Ghost to listen with us and ask that we're nudged on just one thing we can change or implement. This talk isn't to overwhelm, and it's not talking about perfection now. Abby, what do you have for us?
Let's start with this. The first part of the talk, President Oaks touched on what the proclamation on the family was, and it was introduced 30 years ago at the time of the conference. Crazy? It is crazy because I remember it well when it was introduced. The proclamation declares that the family is ordained of God. It is central to the Creator's plan for the eternal destiny of his children, and God's commandments for his children to multiply and replenish the earth remains in force, and further declare that God has commanded that the sacred powers of procreation are to be employed only between man and woman lawfully wedded as husband and wife. So here's the doctrine that precedes his observations and invitations. One observation is, for over 100 years, the number of American households with mother and father as head have declined, as well as the number of children born to each family. Marriage and birth rates of our church members are much more positive than that, but have also seen a decline significantly. And then he shares this thought. He says it is vital that Latter-day Saints do not lose their understanding of the purpose of marriage and the value of children, that in the future for which we strive, exaltation is a family affair, as the prophet President Nelson has taught. Only through the saving ordinances of the gospel of Jesus Christ can families be exalted. So we might ask ourselves the question, how is the teaching on the family best received?
According to President Oaks, by modeling it, I find it interesting that he reminded us that he said, we can truly say that the gospel plan was first taught to us in the counsel of an eternal family, which means we learned about eternal families from our heavenly parents and that they modeled that living for us while we live with them. Then he goes on to say that it is implemented through our mortal families, meaning we're going to figure out how it works by doing it, right? And its intended destiny is to exalt the children of God in eternal families. He emphasizes that parents, single or married, and others like grandparents who fill that role for children are the master teachers. Their most effective teaching is by example. The family circle is the ideal place to demonstrate and learn eternal values. 80 years ago, as he lived on his grandparents' farm in his boyhood, things were a little bit different. Most learning was done as a family. He says the family was an organized and conducted unit of economic production. And then he says, today, most families are units of economic consumption. This really did hit home. When he said that, I was like, wow, that's a really good point. And he says that doesn't require a high degree of family organization and cooperation. He makes a clear point here, I feel, that families can take back the pull of the world that it's having on every family on the earth today. I like having this in our minds as we discuss what we as parents or the family circle are to teach our children.
If you noticed, he pointed out that not all families have all members to enjoy complete family currently. And I think a lot of times people just assume like they've got things perfectly. So it's easy for them to talk about, the roles in the family proclamation and how things should go and ABC.
Yeah. And the ideal, right?
Yeah. What the ideal looks like. But he very emotionally shared and reminded us that he experienced firsthand the passing of his father when he was just 7 years old. And you were commenting before about him living on his father's farm, his grandparents' farm.
Mm-hmm.
Adam and I made it through his biography this week to just kind of catch up on the life. And his mom went back to school, and they were raised by the grandparents during that period of time when she was furthering her education.
So when he said, "I'll be your father," he really was.
He promised that he would be, and then in the same token, helping their daughter to get on her feet and
for sure
and make a better way for herself. And that required, a 2-year stay with the grandparents while their mom was pursuing that.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
So, anybody that wants to get up in arms about, feeling like a woman's role is, barefoot, pregnant, and uneducated. It's just not the experience he's talking about, because roles do have to be shifted around and made to work for the circumstances they're having. But beautiful that his grandfather stepped into a role of a father figure and promised that he would do that.
Absolutely.
Great that the mom could rely on her parents as she got back on her feet after this tragic and unexpected death. And I think everybody has to play their part and say, this is the ideal we're shooting for. And when we don't have that as the situation, how can that be modified?
Right. How can we fill the gaps?
He said of his mother, she was alone and broken, and yet she taught prayer for heavenly assistance in raising her children. We were raised in a happy home in which our deceased father was always a reality.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And we had a father, and she had a husband, and we would always be a family because of their temple marriage. Our father was just away temporarily because the Lord had called him to a different work.
It's amazing perspective.
Every mother can teach these truths on the eternal family. Remember in tough times that God shall consecrate thine afflictions for thy gain. And that applies to every Latter-day Saint family, complete or currently incomplete. We are all, a family church.
Yep.
For those families that are currently incomplete, family like grandparents can help, which they certainly did in the prophet's case. He calls in the family circle. We all have a family circle. As families unite to strengthen one another, we should all remember that the sins and inevitable shortcomings of all of us experiencing mortality can be forgiven through repentance because of the glorious and saving atonement of Jesus Christ. And I think this is true of all religions. When you move away from your base, family unit that you're accustomed to, there is a place for community and family, like that family filling in our church settings, whatever congregation that may be. And that's because we have a natural inclination to have relationships and have families and have bonds.
Agreed.
Not just ourselves.
Yes. And it's also a compensating blessing, I would say, that the Lord gives us. If it's not in the initial family or the family unit, then he's provided other means to meet those needs, which is a huge blessing.
Well, and it's not meant to say, if you're a single mom making a go of it, it's not to say that you're not powerful and that you can't compensate for not having a father in the home, but what a beautiful idea that there's no shame or harm in finding other men that are in your circle and bringing them in to help fill those roles. So you don't feel like you have to carry that burden that was designed to be shared equally, ideally. Sometimes there's a little more give and take, but it's great. It's a reminder that we're not meant to do things alone.
Absolutely, Abby. Okay, I love this part. He talks about the different things we can teach our kids, or not only can, but have the responsibility to teach children. The family circle is the ideal place to demonstrate and learn eternal values, such as the importance of marriage and children, the purpose of life, and the true source of joy. Then he talks about essential lessons of life. The family circle is also the best place to learn other essential life lessons, such as kindness, forgiveness, self-control, and the value of education and honest work. Practical knowledge The family garden builds family relationships. Happy family experiences strengthen family ties. Camping, sports activities, and other recreation are especially valuable to bond families. I think it's funny too that he prefaces that by saying happy family experiences, because sometimes you have an experience with a family like camping or something and it's frustrating or whatever, but it's just to remind us that that is the goal, to have happiness and really enjoy each other's company in these things. Then he talks about family reunions, because then we can remember our ancestors, and that leads to the temple. Then there are the basic skills of living. Working in the yard and home, learning languages. I thought that was interesting. It says learning languages is useful preparation for missionary service and modern life. There are plenty of people who have used, the languages that they've learned in their
missions.
Yeah, in their missions, and then also in their employment afterwards. That's a huge blessing. Families flourish when they learn as a group and counsel together on all matters of concern to the family and its members. My husband and I have had multiple priesthood blessings that even when we were having in midst of like some family turmoil, like we were facing tough decisions as parents, like where should we live as a family and what should we do for employment? And we were counseled to bring those together or bring them up in our family prayers and to counsel about them, where before that we were kind of hesitant to share some things with our kids because you want to have them feel safe and you want to have them know that things are working out. But at the same time, it is very real to have problems or to have challenges that you need the Lord's help with, and to involve them in that is a perfect way to model how we turn to the Lord and we ask for blessing or direction, and then we move forward in that. So,
and when they have
part of it,
when they have a part in that equation, then you maybe have less of that pullback. Like, I never wanted to move, I never wanted to be here. But as you're feeling inclination to make big changes for your family, or you're going through things based on the age that they are, they can handle a little bit more of that pressure to be involved in the prayers that you're seeking, direction on what the next step's going to be. Another piece, when something that you were sharing, it talked about how much we learn in our family unit. Basically, if all you ever do is complain to your children about how expensive they are and how much they cost you and how messy they are and all the
they're a burden, they're a liability.
They are, they're probably likely to not want to have that joy for themselves, as they age.
For sure, because that's not joy.
It's not joyful. Every chance that you can take to just express how much you enjoy being their parents and raising them and watching them grow and learn. It doesn't have to be like scheduled time that you do that. Just the joy that you're finding in this family life and the things that you're doing together. We express that more. I think that naturally will help them be excited about raising their own families. I did ask my kid the other day. I was like, well, we were sitting down, we were studying the first talk of the conference on peacemakers and making that family plan or whatever. And so we were kind of having a little family council, and I was like, there's an opportunity. If there's anything that we're doing currently in our home that you know that you definitely want to not do in your home because you hate how things are going, I'm like, you could certainly share that right now. We can try to change it. And she kind of like, couldn't think of anything that she
not
really
in the
hated,
moment.
but I'll give her time to think about it.
Sure.
I think what a great way. Things aren't going my way. Well, as a family unit, what if together we decide on a different way that we're going to approach whatever challenges come?
That's awesome, Abby. Also, as I was listening to like the families flourish when they learn as a group and counsel together, and then the language learning, and he said, who does this teaching? The family circle. And it reminded me a lot of the way you and your family approach learning with homeschooling. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you and your sisters tackle this teaching?
I'm super blessed to have sisters that also participate in that, because I know that that's just not something people want to do or have the time to do. But I love that my sisters in multiple states, we can come together, and it gives our children more opportunities with our cousins to learn together. And each of the
Zoom, do you do it?
we Zoom, and we typically are each responsible for like a certain subject. One's teaching history this year, one's teaching biology, and then
I love it.
We can kind of group some of the kids together because they're such similar ages. We have like English language arts, and one sister will manage, and I do with another group. And these are moments and experiences that I really wouldn't get otherwise. In the way that our curriculum works, there's always opportunities to infuse more God into the conversation. I don't think that it's a safe place to do that in most public schools, and sometimes schools are kind of getting away with that. But you know how kids, they sometimes fight you on what they're learning and what they're doing, but at the end of the day, like, they're having great experiences because there's a little more Jesus in their day and a little more talk of God. And we can always apply the lessons that we're learning. If we're studying something in history, there's always a gospel principle
For sure.
in that. So I'm enjoying that. At the end of the day, we're all homeschooling. The way that the Come Follow Me curriculum is set up, it's a home-centered, gospel-supported. And I would always say, when you're preparing yourself and preparing that Come Follow Me material, there's always opportunities to infuse those ideas into the week. And I laugh, like, we'll get to primary. Amy and I teach a class together. So we'll get to primary. We'll ask the kids what they learned that week. And most of them be like, oh, my parents, we didn't do any Come Follow Me this week. And I said, in a teacher training, I said, when I ask that question, it's not to, like, have these kids rat their parents out. It gives us an opportunity to say, we start talking about the lesson, like, oh yeah, we learned a little bit about that. What I'm saying
it comes
is,
out, right?
When the parents have something in their heart to share, an opportunity will present itself somewhere during the week, and they'll teach that without it being like, round up, time to sit down, we're doing Come Follow Me right in this moment. It kind of just happens to naturally flow into some conversation that you're going to have during that week. If there's something that one of your children needs, rather than like a sit-down lecture on that topic, it's in your heart, it will come out normally and naturally, in a way, in an opportunity, in a moment that will affect that kid better.
I love that. So, that's the thing too. Like, it's also a better, role modeling. And it's also a better way to learn and be taught when you don't really realize that you're sitting in front of a chalkboard or whatever, and they're pointing to things. My dad would always do that whenever we were traveling, whether he was taking me somewhere, to Utah, or whether he was taking me to, just somewhere in town. He would use that time just to chat. And, it's not like we were looking eye to eye or anything. It was just a very natural, organic conversation. So he was always teaching, and that's a great point.
We have a crazy busing system here. So if you live on the east side of the road or the west side of the road, like, it may make your pickup time like 45 minutes earlier than the kid just across the street, because they have to pick you up on the side of the street that you live on.
Right.
So I have a gal. We were neighbors and friends, but they've moved since. But she took it as an opportunity. She would keep her kids home for like an extra 40 minutes, and she'd have to run them into the school. But she cherished that time. She would never want you to carpool, to help her out on some of those mornings, because she cherished that 10 minutes in the car, 15 minutes in the car, one-on-one, uninterrupted.
That's awesome.
Conversations, to have these teaching moments. And we live about 15 minutes from the high school, and it's not uncommon for me to make multiple trips a day. But I find that when I have like a one-on-one opportunity to go up there, that I can have,
it's different
because of the experience Anna had shared with me. I'm instead of being like, oh, another trip to Afton, I try to make it special with the kid that I'm taking to dance or taking to music or taking to school or whatever.
I love that, Abby. That's great. President Oaks reminded us that our Savior, Jesus Christ, is our ultimate role model. We will be blessed if we model our lives after his teachings and his self-sacrifice. Following Christ and giving ourselves in service to one another is the best remedy for the selfishness and individualism that now seems to be so common. And then he shares this: living the gospel of Jesus Christ brings blessings. Praying together, kneeling night and morning to offer thanks for blessings and to pray over common concerns. Worshiping together in church services and also in other devotional settings. These all bring blessings. Sharing family stories, creating family traditions, and sharing sacred experiences. I invite, again, each of us to prayerfully choose one thing that we can improve or implement. First, we could ask, what is most important to my family right now? God knows your family, and he knows your needs and available resources. He will guide your decisions and bless your family through your honest efforts.
Somebody might say, what if I don't have the time to take that invitation up? But let's go with President Oaks' counsel on this. He said to find time to do what's truly worthwhile. Many parents will find that they can turn their family on if they all turn their technologies off. That one hit deep. And I wonder how many people felt the same way. If this is you, maybe pray to see what you could cut out that does not align with our ultimate family goal and replace it with one thing that does. It's Amy and I's common practice to find an invitation in each of the talks not tell you exactly what to do, but to encourage you to consider if that's the thing that's above all else stands out in conference. And again, this would have been the very last talk of all of the sessions, kind of bring it home, wrap it up. But when we bring it to the forefront, I do think it's important to consider what impact we can have with our families and the time that we're spending there, the things that we're doing. And a lot of the times it takes preparation on our own parts to be the most effective in those family units. Any last thoughts from you?
No, there was so much in here. I mean, it's worth a listen while you're driving in the car or whatever. There's just so much in it. We weren't able to, do all of it here, but there are just so many wonderful things he shared. And again, like, I see them as invitations and opportunities to improve your family relationships, not a list of do this, and this, because it's an extensive list. But as I look at it, I see the man who will be the prophet of our church giving us direct guidance from the Lord and saying, I'm talking to a worldwide church here. I'm giving all of these examples because everyone's different. Everyone needs that perfect thing that you can start doing right now is going to be different for every family because every family looks different and they're implementing different things. So I just loved it. And I saw it as an opportunity to choose one of these things and see how the Lord blesses us.
And just to reiterate the suggestion, there can be so many things that come out of this talk for each of us. But if you go into this talk with a prayer in your heart that you hear the one thing, the one tweak that you could make over the next X amount of time.
Yeah.
If you pick this talk up again a few months from now and you're doing the one thing, it'll be interesting to see what blessings have flowed from it in the immediate. You never know the eternal consequences of the good changes that you're making.
Yeah.
But, well, not that you never know. It just takes longer to find, eternal blessings take a little bit longer
it's a long game.
to get to. But like you said, there's enough here that you could ask this question a year from now, read and go through this talk, and the impression will come differently. But at the end of the day, any amount of effort that we're putting into our families and those relationships is going to be of great worth.
Absolutely. Agreed. Thank you, Abby. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a great week and enjoy creating family time. See you next time.